In Matthew 25, Jesus gives a parable about a king that comes to judge a nation, and he comes to separate the goat from the sheep. And so he gives this parable, and in the parable, he says, he separates the goats and the sheep, and he looks at the sheep and he says, when I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was in prison, you visited me. When I was a widow, you spent time with me. And the sheep said to the Lord, Lord, but when did we see you when we did all these things? And the Lord said to the sheep, the least you did unto these, you did unto me. Now enter into my rest and into my kingdom. Then he turns to the goats and he says, when I was hungry, you didn't feed me. When I was thirsty, you didn't give me anything to drink. When I was in prison, you didn't visit me. When I was a widow, you exploited me. And the goat said, well, Lord, we never saw you. Where were you? We didn't see you when we had engaged in these acts. And the Lord said to the goats, the least you did unto these, you did unto me. Now depart from me, you worker of iniquity, for I never knew you. And they weren't able to get into the kingdom. Now recently, there was a young man by the name of Jordan Neely, very young. He's from New York City. Rode the train, was known to give performances on the train, and anybody who's from New York City knows that the New York City performers are like idols, and not idols in a bad way, idols like people look up to them and they look forward to seeing them on the trains. But this particular day, yesterday, or the day before, Jordan expressed his frustration. He expressed that he was hungry. He expressed that he was thirsty. He expressed that he was frustrated with life and that he would stay in prison for life if he had to. And I don't know if you guys know, but 3 hots in a cot is really a thing for people who suffer from homelessness. That sometimes they choose to go to prison or choose to be locked up so that they can have a warm bed to sleep in and food in their belly. So meanwhile, during him expressing this frustration, another young man who's an ex-Marine by the age of 24, I don't have his name, he decides to put Jordan Neely in a chokehold for 15 minutes until he took his last breath. While other people looked on and helped him do it, as well as took out their phones and recorded it. Now, if any of you know the media, if you know this story, the media is saying that Jordan Neely had a mental health issue and he suffered from a mental health issue. And because of this mental health issue, it was justified, it seems. There's a bias that perhaps this ex-Marine, was justified in his act. But if we actually take a deeper look and look a little bit closer, we all know that those who serve in the military come back with mental health issues. So could it be that this ex-Marine was the one with the mental health issue and it wasn't in fact Jordan Neely? Jordan Neely perhaps was the one expressing his frustration, and those people on the train decided to be goats instead of sheep. That's a food for thought. Are you a goat or are you a sheep? Be blessed.